Hi friends, welcome back to 3 Barrow Farm and to this little video on what you can sow and plant in June in cool regions of Australia. So it is getting colder in our gardens now. As you can tell, I am wearing all of the winter woolens because we are now seeing 13 to 15 degree days, although today is going to be a lovely 17 degrees. Because it is getting colder, our plants take longer to take off and there's less sunlight as well because we're getting the cloudier days. There's fewer things that we can plant and even fewer things we can sow in June. One thing you also want to take into consideration is your garden capacity, how much room you have to actually plant your veggies, and then thinking about how long our brassicas and that take to establish, and that those spaces that you are now planting in June will go into spring. So you won't get a harvest until springtime. So say early spring to mid-spring now. And this can mean different things. I mean, technically out here in cool regions of Victoria, we're not really planting out our spring plants until October or November. So there is still time to harvest those winter veggies when they're ready in spring and then get the plants out. But what you're wanting to really think about is how long will it take for this plant to be ready to harvest, and then when do I want to plant out my next veggies. So for instance, I have some broad beans that are just coming up along this Rio here, but I will want this section for growing tomatoes or pumpkins or anything vine-like up on this Rio here when it comes to late spring. I will want to have those plants out. But what you can also do is pot up your spring vegetables before you're getting them out here. So that gives you a little bit of a longer time to then harvest whatever you might have in the section that you're planning to then plant out your early spring vegetables for a summer to autumn harvest. So let's get on to a few things that you can sow into your garden direct. You can also plant some of these things, and I will mention when you can get some plants perhaps from the nursery, or if you have been raising plants you can then put them out into your garden. But we're mostly going to be talking about what you can sow from seed. So first up are broad beans. It is actually a really great time to get your broad beans out because we want them to flower as it gets warmer. So on the other side of winter, as it starts to get warmer, that's when we tend to get our harvests out here in cool regions of Victoria. I do have an established plant in my other garden, which popped up from seed from one of the plants that I had there in the previous winter. And that one's doing really well. I'm not sure I have any fruit on it, and I don't expect to have any fruit on it. Most of the flowers that occur at this time of the year, they don't fruit. It's not until later that they actually start to fruit. So I have planted out last month in May broad beans all along this Rio here, but I can then go ahead and plant some more in other sections of my garden. You can also sow some snow peas, shelling peas and snap peas. If you've put all of these peas and beans in a section that you eventually want to use in spring and they still haven't fruited, or they haven't fruited a lot, you can actually chop them down and use them as green manure in your garden. So they don't go to waste. And if you're really just wanting to get your spring and summer vegetables in, then you can just chop them down, chop them up into little pieces and put them back into the soil or use them as mulch. It's like using your own pea straw. You're just using it straight from the plant onto the ground and it will dry out like pea straw does. So let's move on to brassicas. As you can see behind me, I have some well-established brassicas that I'm actually harvesting broccoli from now in May, which is quite amazing. I've been harvesting a few these last 2 weeks of May, and then I'll be harvesting through June and July perhaps as well. So I normally talk about succession sowing, and getting your next lot of broccolis in each month will help you succession sow so you don't have a harvest all at once. Okay, I just had to switch to my sun hat because that sun is beautiful today. So brassicas, some things that you can sow from seed and also get some plants into the ground are broccoli, cabbage, and kale. All three of these are faster growing brassicas. It's a bit late now to get the cauliflowers going, but you will be able to plant cauliflowers again as we get into warmer weather. Next are all the root vegetables. Root vegetables are a fantastic winter veg, and we can sow all of these from seed. So we can sow onions, spring onions, radishes, swede, and turnips. We can sow these direct into our gardens, but you can also raise them inside if you want them to just receive a bit more warmth to actually germinate well, particularly if you have a heat mat. That will help germination rate, and then you can plant them out eventually. So at the moment I do have some vegetables growing in some seed raising trays that I am testing out for a company, and they are doing really well. They've got a heat mat and I'm almost ready to plant them out into the garden. Okay, so one thing that I mention every single month are lettuces and salad greens, and also Asian greens. So we can be sowing these every month, but they do quite well in wintertime. And they do quite well with low light. You'll be getting lettuce greens that you can harvest just one individual leaf at a time. You might not get a heart of lettuce as quickly as in springtime, but you'll be getting something to add into your warm salads throughout winter. So I like to plant an array of lettuces, and I also like to get succession sowing of spinach as well, which is one that I have not planted much of this season, so I need to get some of those on the way. You can also do your Chinese mustards and that as well. Garlic. It is the last month to plant your garlic if you haven't already done so. Most of us in central Victoria or in most cool regions of Australia, we normally have our garlic in by now. But if you haven't, now's a great time to get them in. Some people like to plant their garlic on the coldest day of the year. So that's this month. And then they normally harvest on the longest day, so in December. However, some garlics prefer a longer period than just 6 months' time. So you'll just have to take that into account as to what variety you're planting. And if you're doing this, you're doing the shortest day to the longest day, then you just need to make sure that it's going to be ready in that time. Now's a great time to cut off those strawberry runners and get them planted into wherever you want to plant your excess plants that are growing from those strawberry plants you've already got in your gardens. So winter's a great time for this. And then in springtime, you will get all these flowers and hopefully some fruit from your strawberry runners. Next up, I wanted to talk about flowers. Now, there are still some bulb flowers that you can plant into your garden, so you can still get your irises and daffodils, hyacinth or ranunculus, and tulips as well. But you can also start sowing billy buttons. So then you have billy buttons in spring to harvest from for your flower bouquets. So there really isn't much we can plant this month and into July as well. But we can succession sow some of those items that we have been already planting. And if you do have room, go ahead and plant some of these vegetables, even if they're going to take a bit longer and you won't get your harvest till early to mid spring. It's worth planting them out. And also, if you have bare soil, you really want to be growing something in that soil. So even if it is just planting some seed in the ground and turning that into green manure come springtime, it's going to stop the weeds from growing, and it's going to keep that soil nice and moist and healthy for when you eventually plant your summer garden. Thank you so much for being here, my friends. Let me know in the comments below what you're going to be sowing or planting in your garden this month. And let me know if you've already started to harvest your winter vegetables. See you next time, friends. Take care.